participating in the primaries one day, so that he gets the feel of really how primaries are, so that we see maybe the president coming out and say, no, I was cheated, or the person who was contested with the president in the primaries to come out and say that I was cheated, like we have seen in the general election, people coming out, so that they can have a feel of what we go through when we go for the primaries.
SEC does not make final decisions. Therefore, we expect that decision to go to NEC or to go to the caucus, and all the Ugandans and members of NRM in particular are supposed to be happy with single candidature. If they are not free with it, if they are not happy with it, they are free to stand. They are free to choose a candidate who can run in primaries, such that the democracy we have in our constitution as NRM can prevail.
I think NRM has constantly found out that President Museveni is their winning card. Personally, I have no problem with that choice, because if we go democratic, each party will choose what they want. What people will decide finally is when the presidential bid for the whole country is open. Then people can make their own choices. But as far as NRM choice is concerned, I have no problem with it. Personally, I also welcome it.
So those are the views coming from the different members of parliament with regards to the same. As we always tell you, the hashtag is Morning at NTV. And I'll pose this question to Mr. Solomon Silwanyi. Of course, he's the vice chairperson of the NRM caucus. And the question that has been coming since we saw this particular development, of course, in the public domain is, were the members of parliament who are in support of this, who say that now we support we actually endorse the candidature of the president for 2021 and beyond, were they coerced to do this, or was it coming from a point of accuracy, a point of, you know, their own choice or their own voice being heard?
Thank you, my sister. Good morning, viewers. I think what is important to note here is that the Central Executive Committee of NRM is the most top organ of their party, and they took this decision. But of course, there are other stakeholders. There is Parliament, the NRM caucus, where I chair. There is also NEC, and decisions are going to be taken at different levels. Because SEC, of course, Majesty is the topmost organ. This is a group of about 25 people. So they have come up with this. We are also going to discuss it, and then we shall agree and then share with you, tell the Ugandans, tell the media. So
what you're saying is that the decision taken by SEC was a unison decision that was not coerced? Yeah,
it was not coerced. Okay. SEC took a decision, and they felt that as NRM, President Museveni is still relevant. Of course, even me, I feel if NRM is to win elections, we have to present President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni.
On what grounds?
On grounds that is tested and trusted. I mean, we cannot present, if you present another candidate at this time, it would be very risky for us, because you don't know what happens. People are planning, everybody is coming up, and now we need a candidate who can actually bring the merit. It's like when you're going to play football, you pick the best player to shoot. I mean, this is so far the best that we have as NRM, but we're going to discuss as stakeholders, as NRM caucus, as Parliament, and as NEC. Then we shall come up with a final decision on the proposal of SEC.
Okay, so this decision by SEC got a number of people having mixed reactions about it. Yesterday it was the headline on the daily papers. So I want to ask the reaction of Bishop Zach. What do you think of this? Because this was a headline of someone not surprised, some were surprised, but what was your reaction?
First of all, good morning to all our viewers and all of you. I am also surprised, actually, that you're calling it news. I am honestly surprised.
Why are you surprised?
Because it's not news. I mean, what did you expect? I am surprised if anybody expected anything different. So, first of all, it's not news, and it's not really newsworthy. because it's a tragic story for me. I mean, to hear a young man, Honorable Silwanyi, say, General Museveni is the best we have. What an indictment. What an indictment on NRM. What an indictment, honestly. 35 years. So it's a sad story that you have. And actually people are right. The time to continue holding, General Museveni must be held accountable for certain things he says and does. And I can come to that. Because very sadly, it's now typical for him to terrorize. Very, very typical. And I can tell you, go back. So, first of all, I knew the result. I wasn't surprised. I didn't wake up. I knew it was going to happen. The real thing happened. Do you remember the war in Parliament? When SFC was unleashed? 60 of them or something, arrested, beaten. That's it. So, that's where the thing happened.
You call it a tragedy. You call it a tragedy that SEC chose to actually endorse the president for 2021 and beyond. As Bishop, you who has been monitoring the political space of the country for quite a number of years, within NRM, who would you think they would have ideally chosen, if not the president?
It's really not my business to talk about who. The options are many. And we've had many options. We've had many options. We've had many options. Okay? We've had many options. But let me tell you why it's a tragedy on many grounds. The first thing is that you have somebody who has perpetually lied to this country that is going to finish, is going to finish. That's number one. Secondly, you have somebody when he says is the scoring card, you just go to check what's the score. And the score, as we were talking slightly earlier on today, is that a typical woman in this country gets pregnant at the age of 16. Why? Because she dropped out of school. Why? Because of pads. Why? Because there's no lunch. Why? I could go on. The national average for those who start primary 1 to primary 7, completion rates is 30-35%. That's failure. So you can't talk about scoring. We can talk about education. I can take you to healthcare. It will be the same results.
Are you saying that the president has not done anything positive? There's nothing positive that can be tagged to his name or presidency so far?
Well, there are definitely some positive things.
Okay.
But as I always say to my friends, with my children, when they were in lower schools, and one of them came back home with 30%, I would say, yeah, you've done something. So we'll be able to say, okay, 30%. But it's 30%. So I can't dwell on the 30%. I must speak about, you score 30% and you want us to be talking about 30%. So I don't want to dwell on 30% because it's 30%. It's less than average performance. So here is a president who is performing less than average. Okay. And I can give you all the numbers. One last one. You say typical Ugandan is a child. Uganda is a child country. 50% over below the age of 15, so they are in school, so you want to check the quality of our schools. Number two, about, I just need to get the number, infants below the age of 5. Do you know that the stuntedness in this country today is at 40%? So 40% of the children between the age of 0 and 5 in this country are stunted. That's the performance of this president.
Well, while you were speaking, Bishop, you did mention something, Mr. Silwanyi, in regards to the comments, because it might be the NRM's decision right now as a top one, but you're getting public reactions.
And I want to thank Bishop when he said it is none of his business to monitor, to see who NRM should present. I think it is really none of the business of.
I didn't say.
You said you're not.
No, I didn't say.
I mean, you said
it's not my business to say who.
Yeah, to say who and to say who. And
but I did not say that it is not my interest.
If it is not your business,
I did not say
Bishop,
that I have no interest as to who.
If it is not your business, then I mean leave it to NRM and then let the opposition come up with a formidable candidate who can actually pull down President Museveni, throw him in an election, because you're going for elections. So you need to just bring a strong candidate. When SEC endorses Museveni, when we finally endorse Museveni, you bring a strong candidate, and then they soil him out, and then the country moves. I think this is where we should go. If this one presents a candidate that has performed 30%, you should present someone more formidable, more strong, and more capable of making him actually lose the elections, because voters are watching and they are going to vote in 2021.
This is when we got to this part of it, which is something that everyone is saying. We have all seen this coming and building up. Some, as he says, he's not surprised by what is happening at this point in time. It's not even news that the NRM has chosen the president as the sole candidate. And they seem to be doing things, yes, with their interest, but saying we shall present, not listening to maybe what the people are asking, which is there someone else in NRM that can be a candidate, a suitable candidate for the election?
You know what we should appreciate that is in Uganda is that we are in a multi-party system of dispensation. And in a multi-party system, every party comes up with a candidate, weak or strong. So as NRM, we are presenting ours, maybe weak, as Bishop Zach has said.
For over 30 years.
We are presenting that one. And we are asking Ugandans again, could you consider voting President Museveni again? Now it is upon the other parties to come up with stronger candidates. That's the logic, and that's what I think. You come up with strong candidates, stronger candidates that can actually bring down this man and win an election. And then
you have mentioned that SEC just constitutes, quite a small number of the representation of NRM, and that this particular move will actually be taken down to, of course, the other facets of NRM for them to also bring in their voice.
That is why.
By SEC already endorsing the president, do you feel like the other facets will have a fair ground for them to articulate their stand or their support? Because
the caucus of NRM is comprised of members of parliament, and it is going to discuss. NEC is comprised of all chairpersons, LOC 5s, chairpersons NRM of all districts, all the leagues. They are going to come up and discuss what SEC has proposed, and you never know, maybe they can say otherwise, but as of now, the opinion I've been giving you, some are my personal opinion, because one, I'm not a member of SEC, and then two, the other parties like the caucus has not discussed where I belong and where we are going to discuss and dissect these issues and come up with concrete solutions and agreements, and then we move forward.
Bishop Nirigye did rate the president's tenure at 30%. Where do you rate him?
I think, of course, I expect that from Bishop. I've been with him for a long time. I've worked with the Bishop. I think we should give credit where it is due.
What percentage are you giving the president?
I think the president has performed to 70. Delivering services to the people of Uganda, and that's why Ugandans have been voting him continuously. But of course, Bishop Zach will make turn that 70. We want the 0 to come. This one, the 7 ahead.
No, by the way, I'm honestly surprised that because Honorable Silwanyi, really. When you say 70%, don't just say 70%. I gave you the basis. I talked to you. Wait a moment, give me a time. I talked to you about completion rates at primary school. I spoke about malnutrition for the children. I can speak about health care for women. So give me the basis for 70%. Where do you get it from?
Talk about security in the country for the last 30 years. Compare where we were and where we are, where we are today.
Can I respond?
When you look at education, look at the time before President Museveni took over power in 1986, how many were going to school, how many are going to school today with universal primary education. Look at the health sector, how many hospitals have. True, there may be challenges, but let's not make the challenges as if everything has failed. So let us work to come up with workable solutions that can help the country.
Okay, all right.
Right? Security.
Bishop, you can take this.
Security of persons and property. For 20 years there was a war in northern Uganda. 20 years of the 35 years that he's ruled. Instability in a very large part of the country. Security of persons and property. Today we have crime of untold nature across the country. People don't feel safe. Security, you saw Makerere students only the other day just a simple strike. What do you do? Unleash military police. You saw yesterday a group of members of the DP simply doing for a rally. So this is about militarization. So if militarization, and you call that security, if kids who are drowning in the school system, you talk about access, education. You don't measure education by inputs. You measure education by outputs. You check the quality of education, not just by access. Access is only a very small.
The first thing is access.
I completely agree.
Yeah, you must first access.
UPE is a great policy, but UPE is in terms of performance, and performance is government.
How do we work together as stakeholders to improve this? This is what we should be talking about on TV.
So let's take away from what has been the ratings of the president right now onto the fact, and you did mention it, if NRM has said for now, as the top organ, SEC is saying President Museveni will be our sole candidate before everything goes ahead. You mentioned that now the opposition needs to do something. They need to be getting ready as well.
To bring a strong candidate.
Let's talk about our opposition as it stands. We have the People's Assembly as of last week. That is what the conversation is like. What do you think of our opposition at this point in time, Bishop?
Two things. One, I think we've got to think more deeply about the context, the political context and the political actors. And one way to describe it is deception. So on the one hand, you have leaders who deceive the people, General Museveni and team and others. But on the other, there is self-deception.
When you say the president deceives the people, what do you mean?
Oh, I can give you several examples, but one of them, I think it was 2000, when he said that term would be his last, 2000, he would retire in 2006, and then 2006 he said, just give me one more term. So there's lots of deception things there. Okay. Then, but there is a second one. Second one is self-deception, and this is really the greater tragedy too of the country. That you have leaders who deceive, but you have a population that has accepted to deceive itself. So you have an NRM that says, we have presented, presented, as though they have any power to present. You know. He just secured it through guns in Parliament, has secured it through, so this whole self-deception. Also, ask me about the opposition. So-called opposition. Another self-deception, because you say we are opposition, suggesting that there is actually a party in power. No, you don't have a party in power. You have a person, General Museveni, you have a family, this is personal family rule. He is in power. So it's really a person and a family and cronies and a few people versus the rest of the country. Just check it. North, east, southwest. So I have problems for anybody to describe how they act in this space as opposition. Because actually what we are dealing with, is a political moral crisis of the whole country. What we are dealing with is a country that risks imploding, a country that risks going back to the insecurity and the violence and what we have experienced. Let me tell you,
Bishop,
you push people to the edge, there will be violence.
Bishop, let me ask you this. Of course, Honorable Silwanyi said that, you know what, the opposition needs to also front its own strong candidate. You being at the point whereby you've been monitoring all these events, of course, from many years back, do you think that the opposition has its act right? Do you think they can present to us someone who is equally able to battle it out to the president?
So, Mara, for me, that question, I can't answer it. You know why? Because it's built on an assumption that election works. Elections don't work. Presidential elections don't work. Okay? But by 2021, the result is already.
Let's leave out the election speed. Do you feel the opposition has its act together?
You see the reason, Malak, I can't. I have already told you that to engage in a conversation as though there is an opposition, what I would like to consider and suggest to us as a country is that we need multiple fronts of resistance against this madness, against this deception. We need a front of resistance within this group group called NRM. We need various, resistance from the churches, and I'm very gratified that there are churches, there are prayer groups, by the way. Praise the Lord. People are saying, Lord, you allowed General Museveni and his family to come. Please, Lord, remove this regime. Praise God, there are people praying. So there needs to be pockets. There need to be pockets of resistance everywhere. So yes, People's Assembly is only one, DP another. I don't call those opposition. I simply say we need, as a country, wherever we are, we want to see it among the youth. We want to see it in the media. Did you see what they did to a media colleague? If you guys in the media don't create pockets of resistance, let me tell you, they shut them down. They will shut them down. I think it's Nyombi Tembo has promised that they're going to shut down the internet.
Bishop,
so we need.
Bishop, you have mentioned that you know what, the church also needs to front, a position with regards to the same. But we know, and I'm happy that you're a bishop, we know that the Bible says that, leadership belongs to the Lord, that it doesn't matter the quality of the leader. By the time someone is becoming a leader, Honorable, just let me finish, by the time someone is becoming a leader, the Lord has permitted it. So coming from that front, shouldn't we respect whatever it is that will happen come 2021?
So yes, the Bible does say that God allows whatever is. That is true. There are various leaders, all of them who are God allows. We must make a distinction between what God allows and what God wills.
All right. Speaking of that, we do have social media, yes?
God wills. God does not will evil leadership. And in the Old Testament, it's very clear there are leaders. God, the verdict is these are evil leaders, and God is unhappy with them. So God is not happy with every leader.
Honorable, in a short span before we get social media.
The bishops and the clergy are only, and all of us are only supposed to pray for God's will to be done, not to pull down anyone.
Let's take a look.
The will of God be done.
Let's take a look at what Ugandans are saying with regards to the same topic, and we do have Rita Kanya on the social media feedback. Rita, what are people saying?
Away from God's plan, a number of people on Facebook and Twitter, we did ask you the question. Now that the top organ in the NRM, that is the Central Executive Committee, has endorsed President Museveni's sole candidature come 2021, what do you make of the move? So on Facebook, we have Kakoma George, who says, once Museveni is a sole candidate, obviously he is a sole winner. I propose, as Ugandans, we don't waste taxpayers' money to conduct this obvious exercise. So save our money. That's coming in from Kakoma George. We have one from Joe Bwerike, who says expected. And we also have one, goes back to what the bishop had said, which is, it's not really news. Now we have one coming in from Taka Linda, who says competition is the hallmark of a vigorous economy based on capitalism. In order to choose the best, several candidates ought to submit themselves to evaluation. This NRM is a scam of democracy. Actually a sham of democracy, she says. And still going ahead, we have one who says, God now is all the plan. That is Sengoba Swipe saying that. And still sampling more of your comments on Facebook. A number of you are not surprised by what is coming in. We have Ibrahim Azar, who says, when Museveni removed the age limits, that's when he endorsed himself. So it's not news, just like that. He had earlier removed term limits, and he uses the hashtag saying no to life presidency. That's what's going on Facebook, Mala.
Thank you so much, Rita Kanya, for the feedback. So, gentlemen, we have the feedback, but I'll start with you, Mr. Honorable Silwanyi, as we come to a close. Let's talk about the government's intolerance to the opposition. Yesterday we did see, of course, the DP party, and also Chagulanyi was supposed to actually go there, but unfortunately they were barred from having their rally in Jinja. It was supposed to happen at the rugby grounds. As much as NRM is saying that the opposition is actually free to front its own candidate, how do you explain this? How do you explain government trying to bar the opposition from gaining a clout, a following from the public and the masses, them interacting directly with the masses?
First of all, as a person, I totally disagree with police and all security forces blocking the opposition from holding their rallies. I think these people should be left to socialize, to go and talk to the people, so that Ugandans have an opportunity to listen to everyone. But the only challenge is sometimes they also go with other aims, destroying property, creating violence among the youth.
How do you prove the other aims?
But if they are just going to talk to the people, I don't see any problem with this. They should be left to go and talk to the people.
Do you have proof that at times they actually go with ill intentions?
I do not have proof because I don't work with security. I am not a part of security. I don't work with security, and I don't know what happens inside security and what sensitive information that they get. But I totally disagree with this thing of blocking somebody who is going to address a rally, who is going to talk to people. I think Uganda should reach a level where people are free to go and talk. So that, because if we are now having
conversations that you have at the caucus, are these conversations that you have at the caucus, does it concern a majority of the NRM members of parliament?
Yes, definitely it concerns, and we are going to discuss that issue also as we are moving towards 2021. There should be freedom of association, freely.
Bishop Nirigye, as you come to a close, just your last remarks on this, and I need you to touch on the political space. Yesterday's resistance and the blockage of, the opposition holding the rally in Jinja, and what you predict we'll be seeing in the coming days in the political space.
Well, more of the same, increased levels of violence by the Museveni police. This is not a national police force. Their primary objective is to keep, as he has said, you see, the primary job of the NRM is to keep General Museveni, his family and others, small group, in power, and then they benefit from the crumbs that fall from the table. These MPs, that's what they are really hoping for. I mean, we have a parliament, do we really? That's the tragedy. What can I expect? General Museveni said it in his inauguration speech in May 2016, that he would crash, and he used the word crash. This is what is happening. Okay. So the crashing is going to continue.
All right.
We saw it within civil society. So we can expect more of the same. The abuse of institutions, that is very typical to the Museveni regime.
Is the church praying for peace?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
Please wait a moment. And the church clearly prays about justice, and so the church must pray against.
Is the church compromised? Do you agree?
True that there are many elements within the church that are compromised. The churches, the churches ought to pray for justice, for peace, and that also means pray against injustice, evil, and corruption, greed. I mean, this is a regime that is typified by theft and thuggery and robbery and stealing from the people.
Thank you.
What therefore should we do as a country? Every one of us in our different places, we must know it is our responsibility to end this.
Okay. Thank you so much. Honorable, as you come to a close, your last remarks on this one.
No, I want Ugandans to be calm, because these processes have just started, and I encourage my brothers, my sisters in the opposition to get organized, so that they have a formidable candidate who is going to compete come 2021 elections. And then the church should pray for God's will to be done, not to pull down any person.
Thank you so much, Honorable Solomon Silwanyi, the Vice Chairperson of the NRM Caucus, and also Bishop Zach Nirigye, of course, a civil activist right here in the country. And thank you so much for your views. We always honor them and value them right here on Morning at NTV. Keep your views coming. The hashtag is Morning at NTV. Don't go too far. Morning at NTV still continues.
Watching Morning at NTV. Coming soon on NTV.
NTV presents another exciting must-watch drama series. In the beautiful capital of Uganda, a hotel chain has been